But I promise you, when you make small but intentional changes, the impact is immediate. Waking up early might sound like a small adjustment, but it is one of the most powerful habits that can transform your life almost immediately. When I first decided to start waking up earlier, I thought it would just give me a little extra time in the morning, maybe to get ahead on tasks or avoid being late. But what I discovered was much bigger than that. It wasn't just about adding hours to my day. It was about changing the quality of my entire life. The first thing I noticed was the silence. Waking up before the world is fully awake gives you a kind of peace you rarely experience during the rush of the day. There are no constant notifications, no loud noises outside, no demands from work, school, or family. It's just you and the quiet. In those early hours, I felt like I had the world to myself, and that silence gave me space to think, to breathe, and to prepare for what was ahead. That stillness became my sanctuary, a time to gather my thoughts and start my day with intention rather than chaos. Another powerful benefit was the gift of time. Too often we wake up late and start the day in a rush, running from one thing to another, always feeling behind. But when you wake up early, you are ahead of the game. Suddenly, you have extra minutes or even hours that belong only to you. I use those moments to do things that matter to me, things I usually didn't have time for. Sometimes it was exercise, sometimes it was journaling, sometimes it was simply making a proper breakfast. Instead of starting my day already stressed, I started it feeling accomplished. And that feeling carried with me throughout the day. Waking up early also changed my mindset. It taught me discipline and self-control. At first, it wasn't easy. My body resisted, my mind made excuses, and my bed felt like the most comfortable place in the universe. But the more I pushed myself to get up, the more I realized that discipline in the morning created discipline in every area of my life. If I could get up when I didn't feel like it, then I could also push myself to work harder, to eat healthier, to focus more. That single act of leaving my bed early became a symbol of taking control over my choices. There was also a noticeable change in my productivity. Those early hours were when my mind was sharpest. I could read, study, or work without distractions, and I got more done in one quiet hour than in 3 distracted ones later in the day. Instead of constantly feeling like I was running out of time, I felt like I had plenty of it. I wasn't reacting to my day, I was leading it. And maybe one of the most surprising changes was in my mood. Waking up early gave me a sense of calm and positivity that I carried with me. I stopped feeling rushed, anxious, or overwhelmed. I began my days with clarity, and that clarity made me more patient, more focused, and more grateful. Even the little things, like seeing the sunrise or enjoying a quiet cup of tea, became powerful reminders of how beautiful life can be when you slow down enough to notice it. Of course, waking up early isn't just about setting an alarm clock. It's about creating a routine that supports you. It meant I had to respect my body by going to bed earlier, putting away my phone at night, and prioritizing rest. But in return, I got back mornings that inspired me, energized me, and gave me a head start on life. In just 1 week of waking up early, I felt the difference in my focus, my energy, and my overall happiness. And the more I stuck with it, the more I realized that it wasn't just a habit. It was a lifestyle. Waking up early isn't about being a morning person or forcing yourself into a rigid schedule. It's about choosing to start each day with power instead of pressure, with peace instead of panic. It's about giving yourself the gift of time, discipline, and clarity. And once you experience that transformation, you'll never want to go back. Practicing daily gratitude may seem like a small, almost insignificant act, but it can completely reshape the way we see our lives. When I first started writing down a few things I was grateful for each morning, I didn't expect much to happen. It sounded like one of those trendy habits people talk about but never truly commit to. Yet after only a few days, I began to notice how differently I was approaching my day, and by the end of the week, I realized gratitude wasn't just a practice. It was a perspective shift that changed everything. The first change was in how I viewed challenges. Normally, when something went wrong, I would get frustrated and dwell on it. But when I was already in the habit of looking for good things, even on tough days, I started noticing silver linings. Instead of saying, "This day is terrible," I caught myself saying, "At least I learned something today," or "I'm glad I have people around me to help." Gratitude didn't erase problems, but it made them feel lighter. It helped me focus not only on what went wrong, but also on what was still right. Another transformation was in how I valued the little things. When I started listing things I was thankful for, I realized they weren't always big achievements or dramatic moments. Some days, my list included simple things like a good meal, a friendly smile from a stranger, or a quiet walk in the evening. These were things I used to overlook because I was too focused on chasing bigger goals. But daily gratitude opened my eyes to the beauty in ordinary moments. Life started to feel fuller, not because I suddenly had more, but because I was finally noticing what was already there. The practice also improved my relationships. When I thought about what I was grateful for, people almost always came to mind. Family members who supported me, friends who made me laugh, or even a teacher, co-worker, or neighbor who showed kindness. By writing their names down, I felt a deeper sense of appreciation for them. And soon I began expressing that gratitude out loud. A simple thank you or a heartfelt compliment strengthened those connections. I realized that gratitude doesn't just change how you feel inside. It changes how you treat the people around you. And in return, it strengthens the love and respect you receive. There was also a clear impact on my mindset, and I noticed that starting the day with gratitude made me feel more positive and hopeful. Instead of waking up and immediately worrying about everything I had to do, I began by remembering everything I already had. That shift in focus gave me energy. It gave me peace. Even when life wasn't perfect, I carried a sense of abundance with me instead of lack. Gratitude was like a shield against negativity. And beyond the emotional benefits, gratitude brought me clarity. Writing down what I was thankful for reminded me of what really mattered in my life. It wasn't always about money, possessions, or success. It was about health, love, learning, and growth. It reminded me to keep my priorities straight, to cherish moments instead of only chasing milestones. Gratitude grounded me in what was important, and that perspective made my goals clearer and my journey more meaningful. What amazed me most was how quickly this habit worked. In just 1 week, my entire outlook shifted. I went from feeling like I didn't have enough time, money, or opportunities to realizing that I already had more than enough to be happy. The difference wasn't in my circumstances, it was in my mindset. And all it took was a notebook, a pen, and a few intentional minutes each day. Practicing gratitude every day isn't about ignoring challenges or pretending everything is perfect. It's about training your mind to focus on the positive, to see blessings where you once saw burdens, and to find joy in what you already have. The more you practice it, the more natural it becomes. Gratitude stops being just something you write down and starts being the way you live your life. When I committed to moving my body every single day, I thought it would just be about fitness, about burning calories or building strength. But very quickly, I realized it was much more than that. It wasn't only about shaping my body, it was about shaping my energy, my focus, and my mindset. Even the simplest forms of movement, like a walk around the block, stretching after waking up, or doing a short workout, began to transform the way I felt about myself and the way I approached life. The first change I noticed was in my energy. Before, I would often feel sluggish during the day, relying on caffeine or snacks to keep me awake. But when I started moving my body consistently, even if it was just for 20 or 30 minutes, I felt alive in a way I hadn't in a long time. My body felt lighter, my mind clearer, and I didn't drag myself through the day anymore. Instead, I carried an energy that helped me stay productive, positive and motivated, movement wasn't draining me. It was fueling me. Another thing I experienced was how movement affected my mood. On days when I was stressed, anxious, or even frustrated, moving my body became a natural release. Going for a walk or doing a quick workout helped me let go of negative emotions. It was as if all the stresses I carried was melting away with each step, each stretch, each movement. I began to understand why people say exercise is like therapy. It gave me a way to process my feelings without words, to release tension, and to return to my day with a calmer, clearer mind. The more I moved, the more I felt connected to myself. I began to notice how my body responded, how my breathing deepened, how my muscles strengthened, and how my balance improved. These little changes gave me a sense of pride and confidence. It wasn't about having a perfect body or reaching some unrealistic goal. It was about honoring the body I already had, appreciating what it could do, and pushing it just enough to remind myself that I was capable of growth. That simple act of showing up for my body every day became a symbol of self-respect. Moving my body also taught me consistency and discipline. At first, there were many excuses. I was too tired, too busy, or too unmotivated. But once I decided that movement was non-negotiable, I learned how to overcome those excuses. Some days I couldn't do a full workout, but I still moved, maybe just a walk, maybe some stretching. The point was, I didn't break the chain, and that commitment built a stronger mindset. If I could be consistent with this, I realized I could be consistent in other areas of my life too. What surprised me most was how movement influenced my mind beyond just energy and mood. On days when I moved my body early in the morning, my focus improved dramatically. I could concentrate better, I felt sharper, and I got tasks done faster. It was like clearing out mental clutter. Physical movement created mental clarity. That connection between body and mind became clear to me. When I take care of one, the other benefits too. And then there was gratitude. Moving my body daily reminded me not to take it for granted. I became more thankful for my health, for my ability to walk, stretch, and breathe deeply. Many times, we don't realize how much of a blessing it is to move until we can't. That realization made every step, every stretch feel like a gift, and I learned to cherish it instead of seeing it as a chore. In just 1 week of consistent movement, I could feel the difference, not only in my body but in my spirit. I felt lighter, stronger, and more alive. Movement wasn't just exercise, it was medicine. It was motivation. It was proof that small, daily actions can create powerful results. And now I see it not as something I have to do, but as something I get to do. Each time I move, I'm investing in myself, in my health, and in the life I want to live. When I decided to limit my screen time, and I didn't expect it to make such a dramatic difference in how I lived my days, screens had become such a normal part of my routine that I didn't even realize how much control they had over me. From the moment I woke up, I would reach for my phone, scrolling through messages, social media, and news before I even got out of bed. Hours disappeared without me noticing, and I often ended the day feeling drained, distracted, and strangely unfulfilled. But once I consciously started cutting back on the time I spent in front of screens, I felt like I was reclaiming my life. The first thing I noticed was how much time I actually had. It's easy to underestimate the minutes and hours lost to scrolling, gaming, or binge watching. At first, when I put my phone down or closed my laptop, I found myself wondering what to do. But then I realized that this was exactly the point. I had been so absorbed in screens that I had forgotten how much else there was to enjoy. With fewer hours wasted online, I started reading books again, taking walks, and even spending more time with people face to face. I didn't feel like life was passing me by anymore. I was actually living it. Limiting screen time also gave me back my focus. I had grown so used to constantly switching between apps' tabs and notifications that my attention span had become incredibly short. But when I stepped away from screens, I found myself able to concentrate longer on tasks, whether it was studying, working, or even having a simple conversation. I was more present. My mind wasn't jumping from one distraction to another, and that clarity made me feel more productive and less stressed. Another powerful change was in how I felt emotionally. Spending too much time on social media had often left me comparing myself to others, feeling behind or inadequate. But when I limited that exposure, I felt lighter. I realized that so many of the things that had been stressing me out weren't even part of my real life. They were just images and stories on a screen. By creating that distance, I was able to focus more on my own growth and happiness instead of being consumed by what everyone else seemed to be doing. Sleep was another area that improved almost immediately. Before, I had a habit of scrolling late into the night, telling myself, just a few more minutes, which always turned into an hour or more. The blue light from my phone made it harder to fall asleep, and even when I did, my rest wasn't as deep. But when I replaced my nightly screen time with reading or journaling, I started falling asleep faster and waking up more refreshed. That change alone gave me more energy throughout the day. Limiting screens also gave me back real connections. I noticed how often I used to be physically present with people, but mentally somewhere else, distracted by a notification or a video. Once I cut back, I had more meaningful conversations, more laughter, and more genuine moments with friends and family. I realized that the people around me deserved my attention just as much as the strangers on my screen did, if not more. And those deeper connections brought me a kind of joy no phone could ever provide. Perhaps the most unexpected result was how much calmer I felt. Screens had been feeding me a constant stream of noise. News, updates, entertainment, endless choices. It was overwhelming, even if I didn't always notice it. By stepping back, I created space for stillness. My mind wasn't always buzzing with information, and that peace was priceless. After just a week of limiting my screen time, I felt freer, more present, and more alive. It wasn't about eliminating technology completely. After all, screens are part of modern life, but about creating balance. Instead of letting screens control me, I started controlling how I used them. And in that balance, I discovered time, focus, and happiness that I didn't even realize I was missing. When I began the habit of planning tomorrow, tonight, I didn't realize how much it would change the way I experienced my days. For a long time, I used to wake up in the morning feeling overwhelmed. My mind would immediately race with thoughts of everything I had to do, and often I didn't even know where to start. That constant feeling of being behind drained my energy before the day had even begun. But when I started spending just a few minutes each evening setting clear intentions for the next day, everything shifted. My mornings became calmer, my days became more focused, and my nights became more restful. The most immediate benefit I felt was a sense of clarity. Instead of waking up to chaos, I woke up to a plan. By writing down my top priorities for the next day, I already knew where to begin and what mattered most. That sense of direction stopped me from wasting time or procrastinating. I wasn't just reacting to my day anymore. I was leading it. The simple act of planning gave me a head start, and I noticed I accomplished more in less time. Another change was how much lighter I felt mentally. Before, I used to carry my to-do list in my head. Every little task, errand, or deadline would sit in my mind, creating stress and clutter. But when I wrote it all down the night before, it was like releasing a heavy load. I didn't have to hold everything in my brain anymore because it was safely on paper. That mental decluttering allowed me to relax more in the evenings, to be present with my family, or to enjoy some quiet time without constantly worrying about what I might forget. Planning tomorrow at night also improved the quality of my sleep. It surprised me how often my restless nights were caused by an anxious mind trying to remember everything I had to do. Once I built the habit of planning, I gave myself permission to let go of those thoughts. I could close my notebook and tell myself, it's written down. I'll handle it tomorrow. That small ritual created a sense of closure at the end of the day, and as a result, I fell asleep faster and woke up more refreshed. Another powerful effect was how this habit changed my priorities. When I wrote down my plan each night, I wasn't just listing random tasks. I was asking myself, what really matters tomorrow? What 3 things will make the biggest difference? That question made me more intentional. Instead of getting lost in busy work, I started focusing on meaningful actions that brought me closer to my goals. Over time, this shift helped me stop being just busy and start being truly productive. The habit also taught me discipline. At first, it was tempting to skip the process, especially on days when I felt tired. But whenever I didn't plan, I noticed the difference the next morning. I felt scattered and reactive. That contrast motivated me to stick with it. And the more consistent I became, the more I realized how much power lies in preparation. Success doesn't happen by accident, it happens by design, one planned day at a time. Perhaps the most beautiful part of this habit was how it gave me a sense of control. Life is unpredictable, and not every day goes according to plan. But having a roadmap gave me stability. Even when things changed, I could adjust, rearrange, and adapt. But I always had a foundation to work from. Instead of feeling like life was controlling me, I felt like I was guiding my own path. After just one week of planning tonight, the difference was undeniable. My mornings started with peace instead of panic. My days flowed with focus instead of distraction. My nights ended with closure instead of worry. This habit didn't take hours, it took minutes. Yet those few minutes created a ripple effect that transformed the way I lived. Planning tonight, is not just about organization, it's about clarity, confidence, and living with intention. So, in just 1 week, 5 simple habits: waking up early, practicing daily gratitude, moving my body, limiting screen time, and planning tonight, reshaped my energy, my mindset, and my entire outlook on life. None of these habits were complicated, and none required anything extraordinary. But together, they showed me a truth I will carry forever. Lasting change doesn't always come from huge leaps. It comes from small, intentional steps taken consistently. If 1 week can create this much transformation, imagine what 1 month, 1 year, or a lifetime of these habits could do. The choice is in our hands. Every new day is a chance to reset, to grow, and to rewrite the story of our lives. Start with just one habit. Start today, and watch how quickly your life begins to change. Thank you.